Okay, today we're going to talk about how to get your team right and select the right talent. This is a video for clients with an emphasis on picking the right consultants, contractors, firms to work with. So we'll go into greater detail in all of these, but at a high level, this is what we're going to cover. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your job is really to get the team right. Okay? Second thing we're going to talk about is how to select that team and get the right people involved. Third, we're going to talk about how to QA, quality assurance check, and replace folks if they need to be replaced. Okay? So with that, let's move into kind of our first topic. Your job is really to get the team right. When you're the manager of these programs, if you get the right folks, you're set. So the first thing to really understand, and I find that clients miss this a lot. And when I say it to them, it seems to make sense. But your career is on the line on these big projects. And it's not the end of the world, but your career is going to go a couple of different directions based off of how this goes. It's going to go up, or it's going to go down, or maybe kind of laterally and just stall a little bit for a couple years. Again, it's not unrecoverable. It's not the end of your career. These things happen, but stating the obvious, you've seen these projects go really well, and you've seen those people kind of take off, and you've seen them not go well, and you've seen these people stall out. So a little bit of stating the obvious here, but sometimes it kind of helps to set the context the right way in that you got something big and your career's on the line, okay? So when your career's on the line, you want to get the right talent on the bus. It's kind of like being a football coach. You get the right talent onto your bus, you're going to look better on game day. That's why recruiting is a big deal in college football, right? The right talent can make the coach look really good. But it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are if you don't have the right talent, okay? So the first thing at the beginning of these programs is an emphasis on getting the right people involved and being aligned with your leadership of the steps you're going to take to ensure that you've got the right talent involved along the way, okay? So then the third point is test and tweak proactively. You need to be testing, evaluating, especially in that first 3 months, 1, 2, 3 months, to make sure you got the right folks involved. And if you don't, it's better to pull the ripcord sooner rather than later, because you make that investment in the ramp up, then you got to rip somebody out, replace them, you got to ramp them up. That can be painful. We'll give you a couple tips on that later about how to hedge your risks there. But if you've ever had to replace people on projects, you know that it's really painful. So again, your job as the manager, get the right team in place. All right, moving on to the next topic. How do you select that right team? Now we're going to kind of focus on a couple of scenarios that we see the most often. The first one being big systems implementation, and the second one being ongoing projects and releases. And we have some thoughts. Again, you can just take these thoughts and disregard them if you want to, but these are just data points, lessons learned along the way. Hopefully it helps you out. When we're talking about big systems implementations, what we've seen really well, because our firm does a lot of that, is it is to your benefit. We like big 5 firms as your systems integrator. And what you're doing is you're pairing a systems integrator with an adoption specialist. We happen to be one of those, but we're not the only one. But the point is to find a real specialized group that's separate from your systems integrator. Why? Because these are the folks that are going to do the change management. They're going to be doing the evaluation on preparing the organization, they're going to catch stuff here and correct it back over here before it goes out to the users and causes disruption, pain in the business, you to look bad, all of us to look bad, right? So, but what happens is if you've got this all under one firm, they won't catch it and they won't say anything and you're in trouble at the top. So separating these two duties is to your benefit, and we have actually, our experience is these guys prefer that. They prefer to have a specialist run the adoption because it makes them look better. You don't always have to go to a big five firm, and when we say big five, we mean PwC, Deloitte, Accenture. You don't always have to go to the big five over here. Sometimes you have a specialty type of a product. For example, one that we see is these energy trading and risk management systems. Those are run by mid-sized firms that are still pretty sizable firms, but they're not the size of Deloitte. And you can still have them be your systems integrator, and they love, frankly, they partner with us, right? So they may already be on top of this. But a lot of times you want that separated out with two separate firms. So hopefully I've kind of made my point there. If not, reach out with questions. Oh, one additional point. This green arrow right here is really important. You can set the tone for your vendors to work together the right way. And we've had this conversation. I specifically have had this conversation many times. And we prefer it, actually. You need to pull your vendors together and set the tone for one team behaviors. So many times we've been pulled into the room with Deloitte, the head guy at Deloitte, and they'll tell me and that guy, and they'll say, you two guys need to play nice. Your firms need to play nice. You need to set the tone with your teams. If we get sideways with that, we have a problem, but that's part of your contract being hired here with us. So you setting the tone and getting the right team on board is the way that great management gets done. So let's talk about ongoing projects and releases. This is where we see that you do better to hire multiple specialists across your functions. And that can be, this can be Salesforce, this can be something else, these can be different lines of the business, whatever those are, right? We can build out underneath these things however deep we need to. But the point for this conversation is about getting the right team. So if the big five firms like Deloitte have the right functional subject matter expertise, you can pull them in to the right function, but we tend to see an opportunity in the market for you to get lower priced, smaller boutique firms or independent staff augmentation specialists to come in and fill out these teams, right? You might have scrum masters throughout this. And you don't necessarily need to go to a big five firm to do that. They do have good talent there, but you're just paying a premium to go to those firms. And over the top of this, you want to have a pretty strong PMO or agile kind of integrated function over the top. We see this really pay dividends. We have some folks that work for us that do this really well, but if you get these people right, they will help down and they will coach, and frankly, they will build your capabilities as an agile organization down through the functions of your business. At the end here, we call out adoption just because it's just such a big piece. We specialize in that, so we're a little bit biased, but we see the adoption make or break both big projects, but also just ongoing releases. It is not enough to get the technology right or the business change right It doesn't matter until your people adopt it the right way. And so we like the idea, and we've seen it work well, of different specialists. And again, you set the tone for all these guys to work as one team. By the way, that tends to work pretty easily when you've got smaller firms or staff augmentation, independent contractors. That tends to be a little easier than if you have multiple big firms, right? So setting that tone for one team behaviors across here is another one of your jobs. But hopefully that gives you a couple of examples of how to set this up, and how to get the right talent, how to select the right talent. Okay, so let's move on to how to QA, to check the quality, and to replace if needed. So what we have seen work well is to use a specialist as an outside advisor. So you don't have to have all the right questions. You can very cheaply get a smaller firm, a boutique firm, an independent contractor, and they will feed you the right questions to be asking for you to assess and check the quality as you're moving. Remember, those first few months are really important to get off to the right foot, right? And if you're not, then it's better to rip and replace early. That Band-Aid comes off a lot easier before the glue gets cured, the better. Again, I just can't stress this enough, but set the tone for one team, right? This specialist can be, you can set the tone and say, hey, look, Mr. Deloitte program manager, we're bringing in a specialist to QA. Don't get your feelings hurt. This is just business. This is an important thing that we're doing. We got to get this done the right way. Their job is to help me check the quality and make sure we're off to the right foot. These guys are business people. They understand that, and as long as you set the tone at the beginning and you're upfront and honest, you're just setting the rules. You're the client, and the client gets to set the rules, so don't be afraid to do that with your vendors. If they get their feelings hurt, you might have the right vendor, or you might have the wrong vendor. Right off the bat, that tells you you might have the wrong vendor who doesn't have your interests at heart, okay? And if you need to rip and replace, it helps to be able to backfill using that advisor, because it decreases your ramp up, okay? So we've seen this, and I've personally done this. When you're selecting your advisor, it would be nice if, number one, they can play nicely in the sandbox, and you don't bomb the guy who's doing the work just so you can get the work. If they can do that, but they also have the capabilities to ramp up the team because they've got a firm, you're in the best possible position. Why? Because this person has been getting the information the whole time, and you don't have to start from scratch, right? So let's just say you've got Deloitte in there, but you've got me QAing them. The best case scenario is that they take care of business. You've made an investment in them. I've got your best interest at heart. You've set that tone. I'm not desperate for the work. The best case scenario is these guys execute. But I'm feeding you the questions, and you're evaluating me on my ability to help you do that and play nicely. And that subject matter expertise that I'm providing to you, because I'm an expert at doing this, is helping you to QA Deloitte or whoever's in there doing the work. And so you've got a nice balance of people's interests to do the right thing. And if something doesn't go wrong, if something doesn't go right, you can't bet your career on getting the next firm in there, and hopefully that goes well. And then if it doesn't, next one up, Now you're like 3, 6, 9 months down the road and you got a bad look because you're not running the show. Your job is to manage all of this. And so hedging yourself and getting the right people to not only execute the project, but to QA the project, to hedge your risk, is protecting you. So hopefully this gave you some good insights. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We can talk more. But this is a great way to make sure that you're getting the right team and the right talent on board, and then you're QAing them along the way to make sure you can make tweaks if you need to, because that is your job.